Thank you, Chair. And let me start by thanking the Almighty Father for providing me this opportunity and thanking the committee for having me this morning. My name is John Munyes Kionga. I was born in Lokitang in Turkana North, Turkana County. I schooled my life in primary high school was in Turkana County. I went through Lokitang Primary, Lodwa High School. And Lodwa High School, from Form 1 to Form 6, O-level and A-level. Then after that, I went into charity work. My life has been a life of service to the people of Turkana, to other regions in Africa, Uganda, Rwanda, where I worked as a humanitarian officer for a number of organizations, UNESCO, Oxfam, Practical Action, the Catholic Church, and many others. It is after that experience I did my academic training, acquired a diploma in rural development, and came to Nairobi University to finish my sociology degree and political science. As I've said, my life has been a life of charity, working with poor people in rural areas. And that's what catapulted me to my political life, where in 1997, I was elected a member of parliament for Turkana North. And I became a member of parliament for a number of sessions, where I was elected 3 times. And the last service in parliament, I was again elected a senator. In my time in parliament, I was rewarded and appointed into a ministerial capacity. First starting as an assistant minister, working under Mother Karua, who was then the water minister. And then after that, I was promoted in the office of the president as the Minister of State for special programs. And then in the Grand Coalition, I returned back to the Ministry of Water, served as a full minister. And then there were changes, and I was made the Labor Minister, where I served for 5 years. I've enjoyed my time as a cabinet minister, and I've always wanted to return to that level to serve Kenyans. In terms of my experience, if I look at my experience, the rural experience I've already explained is mainly charity. But my cabinet experience is experience of bringing reforms where I go. I undertook reforms in the Ministry of Water. The Water Act 2002 was during my time. We did so well in creating the institutions, the infrastructure we have now in the country. All of you know last year, the country was honored by UNESCO. Our president, Honorable Kibaki, former president, was given an award because of the water reforms. And those reforms were during my time. I had the privilege to serve in the Ministry of Water, in the Ministry of Labor. Again, I came with reforms in the Ministry of Labor. The labor laws that time, our representation at the ILO, where I made Kenya for the first time to be member of the governing council in the 3 tripartite. The workers were represented in the national governing council. Government was represented in the governing council, and the workers, employer, and of course government, 3 together for the first time. In the Ministry of Special Programs, I ran a very efficient food distribution program in this country, providing service to and mitigating disasters droughts during that was time of 2003 to 2005. I was part of the the team that drafted the National Risk Control Council document that was rated the best in Africa. I played a big role in providing that leadership that brought that document, and is one of the key documents in this country. I expanded arid lands programs in this country, more categories to occupy more, to include more capacity, more to classify it further, to include more counties which were marginalized. I brought in the Coast Province. That's when Kilifi was put under the program. The Masai regions of Kajiado. I included the areas of Taveta. And we had a bigger program that was funded by so many partners, and it was later changed to this new docket we have now under the National Drought Ministry. So I look at myself as a reformer. I get a team in a ministry, and the first thing I do is to look at what can be done to enhance development or change in the ministry. I've done it in all these ministries, and it has worked. It has shown results. At NSSF, we had to reform NSSF from a provident fund to a pension fund. NSSF was a cash cow. We had to change that, increase revenue in NSSF. I feel suitability in this way, that I have the cabinet experience, which is with me. And for the new docket, the petroleum docket, petroleum was discovered in Turkana. I'll play a key role in bridging conflict, in increasing participation of the host community, because many of these minerals, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Chairman, are often discovered in marginalized areas of this country. They are domiciled in our areas, in those marginalized areas. And we must find a way of bridging the two levels. Having the understanding of a host community and ensuring the national interest is taken on board. That is the role I want to play. I'm excited. I want to start going. I want to start doing my job. I want to get out there to deliver for Kenyans.
Very well. Thank you very much, Mr. Munyes. Obviously, the docket which you've been nominated is an exciting one, even listening to you. May I give this first shot to the chair of the Energy Committee, the Honorable Gekaria. Maybe before you start off, maybe Mr. Munyes, you could give us, I saw you carrying your CV, the originals. Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. First, let me take this opportunity to congratulate you for having been nominated to that position. And Chair, rightly as you've put it, the petroleum sector now is a very interesting area. And this country, in the next few years, we might make a breakthrough and become very advanced in terms of economic-wise because of the discovery of petroleum. I've heard you talk about you being a reformer in the various ministries that you have been appointed to in the past governments, and articulated very clearly on what you've done through the various ministries. However, the I've just heard that you are going to kind of bridge the gap whenever there is a conflict that will arise between the community and the government or the county government. Maybe just to ask, sooner or later, the petroleum, the exploration, development, and production bill, which had almost found to its conclusion in the last parliament, was lapsed and is coming back. And of course, in that bill, there are issues regarding the sharing between the national government and the counties specified. How are you going to make sure that once the bill has been passed in Parliament and it has become law, that what has been indicated in that bill is going to be implemented within your ministry, and not the aspect of, because the law is there and it will have stipulated specific percentages that are supposed to go to the counties, the communities, and the county government. I would really want to know how you're going to fast track the implementation of that bill once it becomes. We are hoping that sooner or later it will be brought before Parliament, and once it's done and we have an act, then you'll be able to do. Secondly, and most importantly, is that discovery of oil everywhere is a good thing for the country. But at the same time, as it has always been indicated in past regime and wherever some scholars have indicated, it's a curse also that has seen so many countries going into conflict because of the oil exploration and discoveries. So how are you going to mitigate this aspect of addressing a very critical aspect? Lastly, is that it's a very expensive venture where we have investors coming in, pumping in a lot of their money. Already agreements have been signed between the government and the investors. And it will be our, as a government, and your ministry in particular, to see to it that the respective investors adhere to the specific agreements as signed, so that the country can be able to earn some income out of the oil depot that we'll have, will be doing exports. So how are you going to make sure that we have fast-tracked? We started this in 2012. Up to now, it is still nothing has been done. And you're hoping, how soon do you think we could, after having the act, how soon can we be able to implement that aspect? Thank you.
Because we have to get these many questions from the chair of that departmental committee, which if is confirmed, you will be dealing with. But the rest of you will come thereafter. Prof.
Mr. Chairman, what is critical in the upstream and the infrastructure stage of discovery of hydrocarbons is the legislation. What we're waiting for is the legislation. As a CS, I want to operationalize that act quickest. But to do that, I need a raft of measures. We will have a number of regulations to help us operationalize that act. Among some of the things I want to do is public participation. This resource is domiciled in areas of marginalized communities. We must remember the international law of First Nations advisory calls for us to respect that. Resources found in areas like those, sensitive in this nature, must call for participation. I want to get, as a cabinet secretary, to deposit the act in the public domain, become a link of the national government, the investors, and the communities. What our national parliament will approve is what the representatives of this country have decided. But it will require for me to have a raft of measures of ensuring the host community understands they are rightfully getting their percentage. In matters of other legislations like enactment of enforcement of the land laws, that amendment is very crucial in this manner. We need to ensure there's compensation for areas where the oil companies are operating. We must own the process. We must allow the communities to own the process. The pipeline from Turkana to Lamu, all through, as it goes through Garissa and all these places, should be something the communities are owning as their resource. It must be like that. And defined framework of ensuring every sector benefits as prescribed by the law. Oil is a curse. Nigeria is a good example. Ghana, of course, we have good examples. Norway is another good example. But it's incumbent upon us to cut the appetite of corruption, of cutting out communities. As long as communities are happy, the corporate social responsibility is given to them. They will not stop those operations. Jobs are going to them and they're creating wealth. I'm being disrupted.
I hope that is not in this room. You can let please. No.
At the upstream level, Honorable Chair, that is the most critical segment of the petroleum sector. At the upstream, we do exploration. We do well testing, appraisals, and all that. Without considering all those factors, without ensuring every stakeholder is happy. And I can't say, having gotten a job overseas, I'm now going to say we will force people to do what is not right. It should be done within the law. And the framework will be very clear. Parliament will guide it. We have cabinet to discuss these things. We have the stakeholders to understand the steps we're taking. At the mainstream level, we'll ensure the pipeline, again, is discussed. As I said, the land issues will come. We need to enforce those regulations. And all that until we go down to the downstream, which this Parliament has not legislated. The law that is existing now is only for the upstream. We yet to discuss the challenges in the supply side, in ensuring we have the right pipeline, the storage, that will come. For investors, we will have to engage the investors. But again, I want to say, as I get in, I need a forensic audit for Kenyans so that we have clear figures. What is coming out? How many barrels are coming out? As a CS, I will not want to be told there's 760 today and tomorrow there's 500. Full disclosures. We need information, accurate information that should come to Parliament and the President so that government knows what the investors are doing. We supported them to deliver their mandate, but full disclosures so that the country delivers early oil by 2021.
Member for Munyes East.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate you for being nominated to this new ministry. Chairman, as a point of information, that this is a ministry that will be shared by committees. The petroleum side will be oversighted by the Committee of Energy, while the mining side will be oversighted by the Committee of Environment and Natural Resources, where I belong. Chair, just recently when we went for induction, we realize that this is a sector that really requires a very shrewd leader. And therefore, I want to request our incoming, if you are approved, if you are really the person you need to convince us if you are really the person we are looking for. Because when it comes to mining, we have had, from the issues we have gathered as a committee, we have had prospectors who have been holding licenses for prospecting for a very long time. If you went to areas like Migori, areas like Kakamega, Rostman, where gold was discovered long ago, today the people who are mining are still holding prospectors' licenses. And in prospecting, what it actually means is that the minerals extracted are not accountable. You cannot account for minerals extracted because they are still prospecting, and therefore even revenue coming to the government cannot be easily determined by the under the prospecting licenses. Some prospectors have even carried the raw ore, taking them to Tanzania, our neighboring country, for refining. You as a CS who has been around actually in public service for quite some time, I would want to hear from you, and I'm sure the entire committee, on how you are going to approach this sector, because when you are appointed, you must have convinced the appointee, the person who appointed you, that you are up to the task. How can you convince us that the aspects of prospecting licenses would come to a stop, and that the mining licenses would be given so that the country can benefit from the minerals that will be discovered between their borders? Thank you.
Maybe we could take one more. Of course, we all know that several sets of regulations have been forwarded to the National Assembly. So some of those issues, I think you may have yourselves to blame, because those things are pending before the Committee on Delegated Legislation, over 16 of them, which should address some of those concerns. But I've heard the nominee talk about regulations, and I think perhaps we may be moving in the right direction, but it will be him. Member for Lunga Lunga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, allow me to congratulate my former chair, national chair of Ford Kenya, where I used to serve as a deputy party leader, for being nominated to hold the position of a ministry in the mining and petroleum. Mr. Chair, I'm sure the nominee is aware that we passed a bill last year, 2016, the mining bill, which became an act of parliament. And inside the mining bill, there is a clause that talks of community development agreement. And according to the mining bill and the constitution protects any investor who comes in after, before the act of parliament is implemented. But you see, for quite some time, mining has been taking place in our areas. The community has not been benefiting out of the mining which has been extracted and exported, basically because of the act and the constitution. And you know, the tenure that the companies have been given, they are so, they are so long, many years, like 13 years. And I'm talking about a specific company based titanium, whereby they're extracting minerals from the country, both from the county, and exported outside the country. And still, our GDP in terms of mining, as it's only 80% contribution. So I wonder if the act is going to be reviewed. So I would like the nominee at least to give us an overview. What will be the condition? What will be his position when he is nominated and confirmed to be the CS in mining? Because we as a community, we're expecting to gain a lot from the mining companies in terms of employment and in terms of the revenue sharing. Thank you.
Munyes.
Chair, the profile Kenya is having on mining is such a big profile. We need to make this country a mining destination and hub for where the region can bring minerals, where we can expand our GDP contribution. By the way, it's 0.8% we are contributing to the GDP. I'm aware some communities have not benefited, and yet the right legislation is in place. Unlike petroleum, mining has a new legislation. There's the Mining Act that provides for the institutions, provides for ways of ensuring benefit sharing is done properly in the framework that is put in the law. And this parliament at least give the 70%, 20%, and the 10% for communities. My challenge will be to Parliament to enact subsidiary legislation for the rotaries, for the monies that is going to go to communities. We will fight to ensure the companies provide the corporate social responsibility. But the bulk of the money will go to a sovereign fund. As I speak now, when I get into this office, I will ensure Kwale gets the 1 billion shillings that is accruing from the best titanium. I know Western Kenya has those benefits to get, Northeast and everywhere. We will improve our economy by 8%. The moment we get there, Mr. Speaker, I will see how the blocks can be reviewed, the licensing blocks, the exploration and exploitation of minerals. Some are so long, they have been there for the last 15 years, you are right. We need to review them and see whether we can subdivide them. Some of the blocks are so large. Half of Turkana is maybe one person. You can't explore in all those areas. I've come at a time when our government has negotiated for 7 billion shillings for an airborne survey to map all the resources in this country. The moment I've mapped all those resources, I'll create an atlas. You'll walk into our offices and you'll find an atlas. In Turkana North, where I was born, I'll walk there to see whether I have copper, ruby, diamonds. And you'll come to apply for the license. The license is online. There are no corners about it. It's online, and if there's nobody occupying that area, you'll just get it and invest in that block. The other thing we're going to do, which is very important and is a game changer, is the artisans and the small-scale miners. We want to ensure we give licenses to every county to organize cooperatives. The moment I've done the mapping, the master plan has been done, we have mapped the targets, what they call in their terms anomalies. Those anomalies will now direct us where the rubies are, the gold is, and then I will provide the licenses through the county government. In this ministry, I must work with the governors, with the leadership down there, so that we ensure so much is coming out and Kenya becomes the leader in mining and petroleum.
Honorable Angwenyi.
congratulate you, my friend, for having been nominated for this position, because I believe you can deliver if you take the advice of this parliament. Mr. Honorable Munyes, you come from a county where we have discovered a number of minerals in recent times. Now that you are going to be a cabinet minister, cabinet secretary for mining, whose interests will you take care of most? Is it the county where you come from, or the national where you have been appointed? 2, is it possible for you to consider, as you have said, you map out what minerals we do have, to consider how they can be exploited really quickly? You take the example of the coal, which was discovered in Kitui some almost 20 years ago, and those come to be exploited yet. And yet Kitui is one of the poorest counties in the country. Can you prepare a program whereby these minerals can be exploited quickly to the benefit of the country and the people, the communities living in those areas? And finally, can you establish a process whereby you emulate a country like UAE, United Arab Emirates, where they have utilized resources coming from their petroleum to move from third world, the first world in the economic development of that country? Can you emulate that for Kenya?
Member for Taita Taveta, Haika Mzee.
Well, I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate you, Honorable John Munyes. And I also have 2 questions for you in regard to your nomination. Question number 1, what do you see is an immediate issue that ought to be addressed within the ministry you've been nominated, given a chance, and how will you intend to tackle it? And another one, I'm glad that you have mentioned public participation, which is among our national values and principles of governance as outlined in Article 10 in our Constitution. How do you intend to make sure that it's upheld while you'll be serving in the ministry? That is public participation. Thank you.
Honorable Munyes.
Chair, whose interest? Of course, when I was in Parliament, my interest was firstly the people who elected me. Excuse me on this one, I've been appointed by the President to serve in Cabinet. I serve in Cabinet. I've been nominated and appointed to this position to serve on behalf of the President. Whose President wants to work with? The people who elected him. So my interest will be to serve Kenya, to be a patriotic, to provide servant leadership, to see how I can transform the petroleum sector and the mining sector in this country, to give Kenya the voice it should be getting, so that we become the hub of petroleum and minerals in the region. That we can do with the raft of measures we want to do, with the right legislation which we have already started. We only need to work with Parliament, the committees, to ensure the regulations are fast-tracked so that we see things roll quickly and get the right capacity. We have budgetary allocations now. We have donors, Australia, Canada, interested with mining. People want to see how Kenya can benefit from the potential we have. And they're waiting for these airborne survey. They are waiting for the data that will propel this country. It's not only donors, Mr. Chairman. We are billionaires in this country. We are people who want to spend money. The moment we have scientific information and data that can convince them that this anomaly could be copper, I will see so many people go there. I want in the quick run to ensure I operationalize the legislation either in petroleum or in mining. Mining is okay, we have the new law. In petroleum, on hydrocarbons, the oil sector is okay. The gas is very slow because the terms were not designed yet. We're waiting for this law, and then you'll see us fast track the gas industry. On the oil, the target is very clear. We must deliver this oil by 2021. Progress is going on. We need to do a pipeline that is midstream from Lokichari to Lamu. On the downstream, I have urgent things to do. I need a forensic audit to see how to bring down the prices of oil in this country. Our competitive nature, our stability and reliability, which was a big factor in Kenya, is now being eroded. To transport oil, a barrel to Rwanda will cost us USD $100. Tanzania is transporting with $75. Of course, the Rwandese will go for Tanzania. But what is the problem? Our demurrages, our cost of the Kenya pipeline company. We need to crack it. We need to find those losses. Where is the money going? Why are we talking of losses there? We need to ensure there's enough adequate storage in the country. Changing the refinery to a storage facility. Building the tanks, the storage facility in Nairobi at the cost of, can't remember the figure, but we have 1.3 million cubic liters. The moment we have so much fuel like that, there will be less on demurrages. The moment we do a forensic audit on Kenya pipeline company, the moment the levies we are having through the Energy Regulation Corporation, the moment those levies are reviewed, we will see ourselves increasing the image of Kenya and reducing the prices. There's another one for wananchi. The LPG is so urgent for me. We can't light the whole country and people are still using firewood. We can't have that. So we must get the LPG rolled, fast-tracked, so that every home in Kenya, and we've already put some 2 billion to start that program. With the LPG, it means there will be less use of kerosene. Tanzania has the same price of kerosene and diesel, it's the same. In Kenya, kerosene is lower. And therefore, our shrewd contractors will take the kerosene and adulterate the diesel. But if you provided cheap LPG, then you are working on environmental issues. There's no cutting of trees. There will be no point of buying kerosene because there's a cheaper, facility. So we'll have tackled that issue using the LPG. We'll have created jobs. We'll create jobs through LPGs in your counties. We'll create wealth. We'll have a cleaner home where you have electricity and an LPG. The cylinders are here, and everybody wanting to get into that business will get into that business. I want to fast track on the mining sector. The artisans is a game changer. The moment every county identifies the minerals, and a good governor down there sits with the CAs to provide licenses, create cooperatives, and we support them through promotion, value addition, ensuring they have capacity and equipment to start small mining. In Turkana, I know there's alluvial gold, but you see them struggling. They have no water. They don't have the equipment. I want to see Kenya go through that route. The oil industry, again, on the downstream, I'll come back to Parliament. For Parliament to allow me get into the preparation of a legislation that will cover midstream and downstream. As we speak, the law you want to pass is going to deal with the upstream, with matters of exploration, well drilling, matters of development of the structures, some bit of storage. But the challenges in the industry of Wanjiko there waiting for cheaper fuel would be addressed by a legislation that will deal with the issues of Kenya pipeline company, with the NOC, with the levies we are putting in this country, and the competitiveness we'd want Kenya to achieve in order to provide for that. So I see myself with a number of issues, and I'm also learning, but I see progress when I get there.
Member for Kamukunji.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to congratulate our former colleague in Parliament, Honorable John Munyes, for being nominated to this position. My question focuses on an issue that has been touched on, but mainly only on the oil side. There are, of course, as you said, many mineral-rich developing countries that have been plunged into resource wars and into protracted and crippling conflicts. And that does not only come in terms of the distribution of resources, but also on the environment. I think Nigeria suffers from a massive environmental destruction as a result of its rich resources. So I wanted to see what your take is on how are you going to go about in terms of not only legislation. We would be very helpful in terms of creating the enabling legislations, but in practice, in many cases there is a disconnect between legislation that has been made to protect the country and the communities, that in practice ministries and organizations do not look after the environment at the level of the drilling and extraction, at the level of distribution and transportation, and this is in particular not only relating to oil but also with other minerals. For example, I know that we are trying to get into coal, which is a very devastating mineral resource in terms of extraction and in terms of its impact on the environment. What action do you intend to take to make sure that the infrastructure that you are going to create for oil and other minerals would protect our environment and will not leave communities devastated by spillage or by pollution?
One more question, Baride.
Thank you. Congratulations, Honorable Munyes. I want to follow up on a question that you've been asked before, but my concern is different. We note, and this is something that has been studied, that most of the communities that host these natural resources tend to be the most poor. And of course, I know we do have a It's back. It's back.
Use the next one. Come here. Yeah.
Okay, I think I'll ask while standing. So, Honorable Munyes, we do have the community regulation. I'm sure that we will approve as Parliament to ensure that there's some agreement between the communities and the investors. But again, my concern is that when it comes to these issues, the women's voice is not heard. If I look at where you come from, Turkana, it is the women who are going many kilometers to fetch water. It is the women who have to go long distances to get health care. It is the women who have to go long distances to get firewood. And they're the caregivers at the family level. And therefore, if you are talking about what comes back to community, my concern is what then goes to matters pertaining women, their practical gender needs, so that then they can feel the impact of that investment in their lives. Because the people who sit there as stakeholders, more often than not, are the men. When it comes to compensation issues, even on land, it is the men who are the owners of this land. So I would want to know what you will do from where you sit to ensure that the women from these communities get to benefit at the same level as the men.
I think do you want to take one more?
Let me take two. This too fast.
Too fast, yeah. Very well.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. On environment, I'm an activist when it comes to environment. I will not want petroleum and mineral discovery in Kenya to get to a situation where we destroy our environment. And that's why in my first assignment, I want to expand the scope of this forensic audit to include auditing various a number of issues, even outside the technical issues, like how much you're getting in petroleum and all that, the social issues. We also go into the impact assessment. And I see myself work with NEMA, with the oversight bodies, with the communities. Pastoralists are sensitive to their land, to their livelihoods. I want to see their perception on how they see these discoveries, these minerals, the way they destroy. I want to see the people in the coast. I want to engage them to see how they have suffered from this or they're about to suffer. That I think will need an enforcement arm. We need to work with NEMA. We need to work with Parliament. We need to work with the leadership there to ensure the environment is safe. We've seen where, in some countries where drilling is done and then you destroy the water aquifers. Mining is done, especially on the hydrocarbons, and you get down there, you are pulling your oil, and you destroy water aquifers in those regions. We want to be very careful with that, and I'll put an eye on that. Communities where the minerals are domiciled, especially women, I want to agree with Mheshimiwa that a lot of attention is not put into the support for the women folk. If you look at jobs, competition over jobs in this sector, men get more jobs than women. If you look at tenders in Turkana, I was complaining the other day to Talo when they took away a tender of supplying vegetables from a women group. and the tender was given to an Indian in Kitale, we had to complain. That's women. You even take it from a woman. This has to be part of the integral program of ensuring women benefit not only on small things, we should get the tenders, we should have employment for them. Of course, we will not undermine standards, but we will ensure they're considered just like men. We'll ensure from the corporate social responsibility that the health sector will support women issues. Ensuring there's enough water through the companies operating in these areas will also reduce the distances women are walking. In our areas, they walk for 20, 30 kilometers. But where this is exploited, minerals are exploited, I expect distribution of water and the water supply to support the women in those communities. So I will still be coming to Parliament for more regulations. I will still come to Parliament, to committees. We will work. We'll make the gender issues. We'll embrace them and we'll make them an integral part of our business in the oil and gas industry and then minerals in this country.
Then Ms. Sangok.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I have two quick questions. Honorable Munyes, congratulations. Reports indicate that Kenya is very rich in minerals. Yet this very important underground resource contribute to 0.8%, not even 1% of our GDP. What do you think needs to be done to reverse this trend, thereby harnessing on this very important resource, now that you will be in charge of this sector? Question number two, you know very well investment in the mining industry is very risky, both physical and also economically, because you can invest a lot of money and probably not succeed. How do you see yourself intervening to ensure that the investors have confidence and that their investment is secure? Thank you very much.
Leader of the majority party.
Thank you, Chair. I am a nomad, so I'm used to moving from one place to the other. Chair, I have two questions. One, Honorable Munyes, congratulations. When you were the senator for Turkana, you were against the provision of the petroleum exploration and development bill in terms of revenue sharing. The bill says 5% for the community, 20% for the county government, and the rest for the national government and the investor. Then you are a politician. You are one of the people who opposed the percentage given to the community. Is that your position now as a nominee for petroleum? Number two, you come from Turkana, the only place now we can confirm petroleum has been found. And you fight against the current governor of Turkana, Honorable Nanok, and there is a petition before the court. One, I want to know whether you have withdrawn your petition against Governor Nanok. And two, how do you want to work as a Minister for Petroleum on one side, and two, as a resident from Turkana County, And 3, how do you want to work with Governor Nanok, who, as the governor of Turkana and your arch rival in the last general election? You know, these intrigues. You need to tell us how you want to balance if this house approves you with your arch rival Nanok. Are you ready to bury the hatchet for the interests of Turkana County and the resources? And please, I want you to give us a very candid answer. What is your position first? Are you supporting? Because the bill that I have just republished, and it will be introduced to the House, and I'm sure the Chair of Energy is going to give you an opportunity. Do you still hold the position that 5% is too small for communities? Or are you now ready to support cabinet collective responsibility? Because that bill, the 5%, has been set by the cabinet.
Yes, Honorable Munyes.
Mr. Speaker, to start with the first one, we are a mineral-rich country. Our profile can turn around this economy. Coffee is nothing, tea is nothing. The moment every Kenyan understands we can make money and change our lives with minerals, talk of Western Kenya, talk of the coast, talk of everywhere. There's so much manufacturing industry. There's so much we can do in the mining. The 0.8%, and we're giving an average of 3% for the GDP, is even small. We can do so much. But we need that confidence. We need to ensure there's stability, there's reliability, and there's competitiveness. But I want to thank Parliament. We have a mining act that is now able to give us the framework. The framework is very clear. So what remains is the enforcement. We've had problems with licensing, with these blocks, with lack of information. This good government has decided to inject 7 billion for data collection. And the act is very clear. The small miners now in their counties can get out and do things. And we'll support them, promote, value add, and do all that. And you'll see in a few years, Kenya discovering, and everybody will be running into mining. I attempted to do that, to answer that. Now, this one of leader is a bit. let me say this, Mr. Chairman. When I was a senator, I had this view that these are extractive minerals. Oil is an extractive, and minerals are extractive. For benefit sharing, I wanted to harmonize. The National Assembly had already passed a law to give the host community, in respect of First Nations advisory with the UN and all those factors and what, domicile, the resources, they don't have coffee, they don't have this is what God has given them. You gave us 30. My thinking that time was to harmonize. Now you are telling me in that debate, now I have a job to do, and I'm still waiting for you to give me the percentages. The percentages I will take to my community and debate and discuss and convince. The issues I know will be coming there is, why was it not harmonized? Let me be frank with you. It should have been harmonized, because they're all extractives. Governor Nanok is my friend. He was only a competitor. The matters in court, of course, you know the principles of sub judice. I can't discuss them. We can allow the court process to continue. But I like this job. I don't care what the court does. It will give a verdict anyway. I've made my submissions. I think I won the election. He says he won the election. I don't know. Let's allow the courts to decide. But the moment I'm appointed minister, I'm begging you to give me this job. I will shake Nanok's hand because I want to deliver for this country. Licensing is done by a governor. The moment I start playing and refusing to work with the governor, any governor, it means I don't want the mining industry to succeed in this country. Whether in NASA or what. I want to work with the governors, I want to work with the county governments to deliver my mandate. I'm a Turkana, I feel for them. I know how people here feel for their communities. But we must be patriotic to our country. We must provide servant leadership. I must be seen as serving all Kenyans. And what our National Assembly and our Senate passes is law. And we'll use it to negotiate with the communities, to ensure our communities benefit, to get a fund for this money. The money will not go to individuals. This money will go to a sovereign account in every county. You members of parliament will sit down with your counties and get the terms of how this money will be spent. And again, it's parliament which will legislate on those subsidiary laws. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kitui South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Let me first congratulate the Honorable Munyes for being nominated. I have two questions. One is kind of intertwined with the question that was asked by the Honorable Sankok and Gikaria. I would like to ask the Honorable Munyes, what is it that you're going to do to make sure that we don't lose investors who have already shown interest in our country? And I would like to relate this with the fact that we had a very serious investor, Mr. Dagote, who had wanted to invest in Kitui. And he changed his mind and moved to Ethiopia. I would like to ask you, have you researched on what is it that Ethiopia is doing right that Kenya is not doing right, so that we make sure that we don't lose such investors? What specific activities are you going to take to make sure that you improve the business environment and make it known to the world, to the investors, that you have done it and you beckon them to come to Kenya? I'm asking this because there are many destinations that these investors can choose, and would like to give you your, if you are appointed, then it will be your responsibility to make sure that they come here. Mr. Chairman, the other question that I want to ask is related to health. The communities that live around areas where mining and drilling is happening are Sikh communities. And the honorable members that are here that have visited places, Magadi, where salt is being mined, the people who live there have various health issues on their skin and other complications. Also, those who have visited Kilifi, where the river mining are, what is it that you are going to do to make sure that you don't only look at the revenue that we are getting from mining, but you're also caring about the communities that live there? And I would like to link this to the health bill that was passed in 2017. It talks about health impact assessment, that any big investment or infrastructure development project must be linked to its health impact. What is it that you're going to do to make sure that you liaise with the Minister for Health and other related ministries to make sure that the health of the people is also a priority? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Honorable Chepto Tomitom.
Thank you, Chair. Let me join my colleagues in congratulating my neighbor for this particular position. I have two questions to Honorable Munyes. You understand very well that these minerals are found in asal areas, arid and semi-arid. And again, these are some of the areas which have intercommunal conflicts, like the Turkana County and West Pokot. It has really affected these areas for a very long time. and the people who are participating in these conflicts are the youth. I want to ask Honorable Munyes to convince this committee on how he's going to work on that to make sure that these minerals, or rather the ministry, is going to assist or support this youth in getting some jobs or some other works in order to avoid engaging in conflicts and cat rustling. My second question is about the mining centers. If you look at these communities, or rather these counties that are rich in minerals, you'll find that there are some other centers, mining centers, which have not been put in the inventory or mapping of mineral resources. So what are you going to do to make sure that these centers are exposed and they are put into this typical mapping of the mineral resources, so that it promotes modern mining to bring development to those particular regions and the country at large? Thank you, Chair.
Over to you, Munyes.
Chair, investor confidence is critical to what I'll be doing in my ministry. As I said, we need stability, we need reliability, we need competitiveness. The cure is in the Constitution and the Mining Act, which we passed. What has been a problem? Investors have run away from Kenya because of inadequate information as regards mining, for instance. The red tape, the bureaucracy we have in this country, which is being cured by this act, and by Parliament and by ministries. And that's the core thing we want to do, to have an efficient, working ministry. Corruption, which again I want to say we must all face it. The moment you seek for small bribes with some of these Western investors, I must say this, they will just run away. Competitiveness, I said. Our energy requirements, I know Ketera has done so much now. I think we're improving. Energy issues have been an obstacle in terms of acceptability. We want Kenya to be an hub. I've said we'll address all these specific issues and promote Kenya so that investors out there will have the confidence to invest in Kenya. I'm happy with what Tanzania is doing. Tanzania as a national gem. If you talk of mining in Africa, the sapphire is Tanzania. Yeah. So what is our gem? Is it gold? Is it rubies? Is it what? Do we have an atlas? What my brother was saying. We need an atlas that will provide information. It is Mheshimiwa. In the ASAL, we're now going to map it. The priority will be the regions in the ASAL, Western Kenya, where we know there's a lot of minerals, the coast province. Of course, other areas we consider, but we know where the anomalies are. We want to get quick wins and we want to get the targets quickly. In West Pokot, for instance, conflict resolution. Peace can be achieved if our youth can be engaged in matters of mining. I always, Chairman, give a very good example. Turkana has so much gypsum, and West Pokot as lime. Those are the two ingredients for cement. So I always said, why can't we put a factory in West Pokot, and the Turkana youth can engage in gypsum, the Pokots can engage in lime, and we'll just require some little ingredients to get cement. And that cement can go into South Sudan, into Ethiopia, southern Ethiopia. It will change those two countries, it will change the whole region. That can be done. The honorable member was saying they have no information. We'll conduct a survey And from the survey, we'll generate an atlas. And so in the next 3 years, it is you not to deliver yourself. I mean, if you want to help your people, you'll help your people. You will have information to take to investors. You don't have to come to me. You can go to an investor and negotiate and come for licensing, and the governor, Nanok, or Ranyangapua, or other people around there will engage with me on how we can ensure licensing is done within the regimes that are required, and then the enforcement is also done. It's enforcement that is letting us down. There was one thing on health. Many of our people, communities are sick. They are facing occupational hazards, Mr. Speaker, and safety in their mine places. This is a major subject, is labor relations, I mean, labor issue also. We want to ensure there's enough capacity in the ministry to do enforcement, to ensure the miners are safe. If a company is not going to provide occupational safety, healthcare, and ensure for healthy workers in the mine places, I'll just blacklist them, Mr. Speaker. So this is a very critical area. And again, the Mining Act is very clear. It's given us these provisions. So it's for me just to operationalize and enforce them.
Member for Turkana.
Thank you, Chairman. Coming from Turkana, I didn't want to take advantage, so I'll run away from questions on oil and mining and go to something different. Honorable Munyes, you just mentioned corruption, and we want to say corruption in this country is short of being declared a national disaster. What is your position on misuse and misappropriation of public resources for individual gain? Secondly, as an individual leading this ministry, how do you intend to show yourself as a role model to the rest of the junior staff or staff under you on matters integrity in line with Chapter 6 of the Constitution? And finally, have you ever been adversely mentioned in any integrity-related report? If yes, what was it about?
Honorable Sabina Chege.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to congratulate Honorable Munyes for the nomination. I've taken keen interest, Honorable Chair, to see that he has grown from being a third-term member of Parliament to a senator to an assistant minister to a minister. So congratulations, and wish you well on this one. My questions are mainly two. One is how will you plan to protect our minerals that are found in our national parks and our national reserves? The second one, having worked in various departments of the government, what would you consider your most significant achievement in your career, and what do you want the nation to remember Honorable Munyes with?
There's a small one, I'm told, from the member for Kikuyu. Because I think we will have to end there.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very quick. Honorable Munyes, as Honorable Sabina stated, you have served as Member of Parliament and even Senator, and including being a Cabinet Secretary for about 4 terms. But in your statement of net worth, you only indicate that you have property and investments worth only 50 million shillings. Is that in any way understated, or have you in any way during your career in the last 20 years lost some money somewhere?
Over to you, Honorable Munyes.
Mr. Speaker, sir, that one has ignited my thinking a bit. You know, we pastoralists sometimes take a wrong route. I invest a lot in livestock production. Maybe I should have declared that. And they face vagaries of nature. You can have 1 billion shillings today worth of livestock, and tomorrow there's nothing. So maybe that's why my figure is small. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, sir, I detest corruption. I have a track record. I worked as a cabinet minister in 3 ministries. I was confronted by a citizen the other day that Mheshimiwa Munyes, utaenda kuwa minister tena, waziri, na hatujaona wewe kwa Public Accounts Committee hata report moja. I was getting challenged by one young man who was saying, yani wewe utaki kuonekana kwa Public Accounts Committee na public investment. The mindset out there. We have that kind of mindset. I've never appeared in any investigation. Never appeared in any interrogation. Came out of the cash cow at NSSF, I've got nothing. You can't get anything from me, from those ministries. I want to provide servant leadership. I want to encourage Kenyans to be patriotic. Make your money. There's money in government. Let's make money, but in the right manner. There are tenders in government. This is how to make money, but clean money. That is my philosophy. I don't want to discourage Kenyans from business. Actually, working with tenders and working with government is the best business. That's where people make money. But it must be clean. The first thing I want to do is to do a forensic audit again. I did one for NSSF. We changed so much. I introduced through the discount securities that time, there were issues there. Fund managers. The things happening in some of our parastotals, we need to restructure. We need to look at them. Where people have done better, we support them. Where there are mistakes, so many Kenyans are good. Good Kenyans out there should be encouraged. But the bad ones should really leave and allow the country to go on. So I will have to do a forensic audit. I know it will not be popular, but it has to be done in all this. The oil prices are up. We are losing competitiveness. We can't allow our country to lose like this. Other smaller countries take over from us, and we've lost. We should be the hub. We should be controlling these things. Minerals in national parks, these are protected areas. I know very soon we'll have the appetite of minerals, but let's preserve the national parks. What I want to be remembered is the reforms I've done for this country, tirelessly. The labor reforms, the water reforms, my charity work, in special programs where I served, in working with the National AIDS Control Council. I like that kind of image of serving Kenyans, and when I retire, I know I will have served Kenyans in the capacity of minister, member of parliament, and now in the new capacity of CS. By the way, this vetting has been a challenge. Nobody wants to be vetted. But at least it gives us opportunity to say some things we have not said in life, and I want to appreciate that. So I look forward to working with you people, if appointed. Thank you very much.
That should be a parting shot from you, Honorable John Munyes. That's your parting shot.
Okay.
But should you want to say something else, we could still give you a minute or two to make your parting shot.
The new Petroleum and Mining Ministry has been crafted in a very clever way. Extractive minerals, they have a lot of synergies, petroleum and minerals. It's so new, we need to work as a team. Parliament, the executive, the county governments must come together. we need to profile ourselves. We need to get back to the top. We need to ensure we have efficient institutions which have been enacted by law. I want, during my 4 years, to ensure we operationalize what Parliament decides in the acts. And I'll be coming to Parliament, if appointed, for extra legislation, for subsidiary legislation, to ensure we fast track things. This issue of donors running away from Kenya is the issue of competitiveness, is the issue of our capacity to do things quickly, is corruption, is all this. And we need to be patriotic to our country. We need to come together and say what is wrong. We have a gold mine here. In Turkana, people are waiting. They want to see how I can license them to start getting. If they had information, they will go right and get the gold tomorrow and all this. And we need to add value to our products and make millions of shillings and billions of shillings. So the ball is in my court, and also with Parliament and with all the leadership in this country. I want to say the political will is there with the President. The President looks at this ministry as a game changer. I know I have a political will from members of Parliament. They're excited about oil. They want to see Kenya being a net producer of oil. So what I only want from you is support. If we have challenges, let's discuss. We will have two parliamentary committees in both houses. I will ensure we work with them smoothly for the good of Kenyans. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable John Munyes. We will not take any more time or other questions, even though I can see some members who still wanted to ask more questions, but you've been you've given us as good as you got from ourselves. We will be retreating later to do a report. We wish you the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Released.